Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the press conference following the Foreign Affairs Council. The High Representative will brief you on today's discussions with the ministers. Then we'll move forward to your questions. High Representative, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. We just concluded the Foreign Affairs Council for November, which was intense as usual. So let me first go through a few points. First, discussion was on Ukraine. The European Union has always supported a just, lasting and a comprehensive peace. Today we discussed, of course, the latest developments, and Minister Sybiha briefed us on Ukraine's perspective. Our position hasn't changed. For any peace plan to succeed, it has to be supported by Ukraine and it has to be supported by Europe. If Russia really wanted peace, they would have accepted the unconditional ceasefire offer already in March. The brutal reality is that 26 Ukrainian civilians were killed in Russian attacks yesterday. Russia has repeatedly paid lip service for peace talks, and previous talks fell apart because Russia never made any real commitments. The pressure must be on the aggressor, not on the victim. Rewarding aggression will only invite more of it. The EU has a very clear two-point plan. First, weaken Russia. Second, support Ukraine. Today, the head of the European Intelligence Center and the EU sanctions envoy briefed on the impact of sanctions. The data is very clear. The export of Russian crude oil is the lowest it has been in months. Russian tax revenues from oil are the lowest since the war started. Sanctions are hitting Russia hard and more are coming. Going after Russia's shadow fleet remains a priority, and we had a very intensive discussions about what we can do more. The EU has already sanctioned over 550 ships, and we have conducted extensive diplomatic talks with flag states that register vessels. Now we aim to have pre-boarding agreements with these states. This is a legal way for one party to board and search a vessel of another country. Slowing down the shadow fleet costs Russia revenues. This is why we will work on more sanctions on shadow fleet, both vessels as well as enablers. Many ministers also raised the financial support for Ukraine. The reparations loan is the most clear-cut way to sustain Ukraine's defense. It is always also the way to show Russia that time is not on their side. Supporting Ukraine is a bargain compared to the cost of Russian victory. Today, we also addressed the attacks on Poland's railway network. Russia's hybrid actions in Europe are increasingly brazen. Russia is committing state-sponsored terrorism. There are many ways we can respond, including additional sanctions and tackling online recruitment of saboteurs. Then on Gaza, the United Nations Security Council resolution for an international stabilization force is a game changer. Peace depends on Hamas not having a role, but it also depends on international partners having a role. EU staff are already working in the Coordination Centre, focusing on humanitarian and security issues. And today, ministers discussed options to expand the EU border monitoring mission in Rafah to other crossing points. We also discussed whether the EU police support mission could take the lead in training the Palestinian police. I welcome that France pledged 100 police officers for that mission. Later today, I will also meet the Palestinian Prime Minister Mustafa to discuss EU support and Palestinian authorities' reforms. Today, we also had ASEAN ministers here for lunch. And over the next few days, we have 70 delegations in town for our Indo-Pacific Forum. Our security is interconnected. What happens in Europe matters in Asia. What happens in Asia matters in Europe. From economic security to supply chains and the protection of critical infrastructure, working with our Indo-Pacific partners is an answer to a more dangerous world. The appetite to do more is clearly there. And next week, European and African leaders will meet in Angola, where peace and security are high on the agenda. And today, the ministers approved the principles of our EU renewed approach to Sahel. The focus is on political and diplomatic engagement, human security, as well as economic opportunities. The aim is to prevent further conflict, tackle root causes of migration, and counter organized crime. In Sudan, the situation is deteriorating sharply. The capture of El Fasher by the Rapid Support Forces opened another devastating chapter in this war. The conflict has brought thousands of deaths and immense suffering. Today we adopted sanctions against Abdelrahim Dagalo, the RSF's second in command. And this sends a signal that the international community will come after those who are responsible. All 27 EU member states today called on the parties to resume negotiations for a ceasefire. And finally, on Western Balkans, we had the dinner yesterday with the Western Balkan ministers, and we discussed common challenges and how to work even more closely together on security and foreign policy issues. The closer we get to the enlargement, the more we need to stick together and defend our democracies against hybrid attacks and foreign interference. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you.